talking about two different cast on methods, how to do them, and we're going to compare what they look like. So the very first method we are going to do is the basic cast on. So this is probably the easiest one. You are just going to start with a little slip knot like that. Put it on your needle. Sorry, my hands are a little shaky. If you're following the channel, you know that I'm having some problems. These three fingers are tingly due to an IV that kind of went a little wrong. So my hands tend to shake a little bit. Okay, but to do this method, you are going to basically knit your first stitch, but instead of taking it off of the needle, you're going to carry it with your right needle and slip that stitch onto the left, so then you have two stitches. So I'll do this again. You're going to knit, wrap it around, and slip it onto the left needle. So then you have three. I'll do this a couple more times. This is a good stitch to do if you only have a few stitches to cast on. I would not want to do something that requires 160 stitches because it's going to take a very long time to do. And there's other easier ways to do so. So I think I'm going to put about 15 stitches on here. Alright, now I have the 15 stitches, but let's look at what the bottom looks like. The edge here resembles a crocheted chain stitch. It's a narrow foundational row right here, and like I said, right here, it simply looks as if you had a chain stitch, or if you had your knitting sitting this direction, it looks like one vertical row. So that is the basic cast on. Now I'm going to show you the long tail cast on, and we're going to compare the two. Now with the long tail cast on, you first need to know how long the tail needs to be. So I'm doing 15 stitches, the same as I did with the basic cast on. So I'm going to hold my yarn right here. I'm going to give it a little bit of an area to weave in because you don't want to cut this so short that at the end of your project you don't have enough to weave in. So you're going to start here and you're going to wind this around however many stitches you have to cast on. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So right about here. Hold your finger there and just take it all back off again. And this is where you're going to put your slip knot. So you have it right like this. You're going to slide your needle in. You only need one needle to cast on with the long tail method. Now, my long tail end is closest to me, and this yarn here is attached to the skein that I'm working from. So I'm going to pick up this, both of them together, and I'm going to, you can see I'm holding them together in my hand, but I've pulled them apart and they form like the letter V. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go to where my thumb is and turn my thumb, and this is where it wraps around in my hand. I'm going to go underneath it, and then I'm going to grab from the V and pull it snug. Let's do it again. I'm going to reach under, grab it off of my finger, and pull it snug. Reach under my thumb, over my index finger, and pull it snug. So do it a couple more times. I'm going to reach under my thumb and over my index finger and just pull it snug. You don't want to pull it tight because then you'll have a hard time knitting it. You just want to pull it snug. This is so much easier if you are doing over 100 stitches or even 50 or 60. This just goes so much easier. Okay, we have 4 more to go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see I have some left here that I can weave in at the end of my project. Now let's look at the bottom of this one compared to the other one. It has a more rounded look. Let's pull the two together so you can really see them. Okay, here's the single. Here is the long tail. Now, from this angle, you can see they look pretty much the same, although this looks thicker. This is both worsted weight yarn. So you can see the thickness is a little bit denser here. And you can see they both have that kind of chained look, but this again looks smaller. And here's the other side. This would be your wrong side. This is where you can kind of see a little bit of difference because this has an extra little loop in it that this one doesn't have, which is what gives it a little bit more fullness. It's a little more of a solid foundational stitch. So let's see what they look like once they are knitted up a little bit in order to compare them. All right, I have both samples here. Now I did change needles and yarn because I wanted to be able to compare apples with apples. So both of these samples were knit with the exact same needles. These are US 6s. I am using acrylic worsted weight for both, and I knit them both in the same stitch. Now this one is a project I am currently making for someone, and I used the long tail cast on for the edge of the sleeve cuff. This is the basic cast on. Now let's sit them on top of each other. And you can see this looks a little bit flatter. This has a little more puff to it. To me, it has a little bit more of a finished edge when you roll them on the sides. You definitely see this defined chain here, and sometimes you can get some that are a little looser or tighter. This one you don't have that, and that chain kind of disappeared. Let's turn it to the back and look at the back of it. Again, this has a much smaller, daintier looking foundational edge, where this one is a little bit more bulky. So those are the two differences between them. Either way works. This is definitely one I would recommend if you are casting on a lot of stitches. If you're only doing a few, this is the way to go. So I hope you've enjoyed this comparison and found it helpful. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. And I will see you all again for tomorrow's My Bariatric Journey to find out what's going on, and of course again on Saturday for our regular video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.